Unlearning proposes that new ways of learning can only be acquired when individuals unlearn those thoughts, those emotions, and those behaviors that prevent us from fully flourishing in the world.
2 weeks into this course, my heart already knew that my entire viewpoint on humanity was going to change.
During the years that I've worked with Taryn, she has assisted me in seeing the potential as an individual, and the course has changed my life for the better. I am the person that I am today because of the course that I enrolled for.
I've been lecturing the content for 7 years, and every year I am in awe of students who share how the content has transformed them both academically and personally. I believe that the world right now is in desperate need of an education that equips individuals with both academic and personal development skills.
Before this course happened, I used to hate people from the bottom of my soul. But after this course, for the first time in my life, I can say that I no longer hate people. I can finally say that I no longer see people for their circumstances, but rather for who they are as people and who they can become.
The things that I learned in my early childhood about who I was not and who I was supposed to be. However, the course showed me the true identity of myself. It showed me that it was okay to be vulnerable. It showed me that it was okay to heal. And throughout the course, I have grown tremendously.
And the unlearning course does that. I realized that the content was so powerfully transformative that it would be irresponsible, that it would be selfish for me not to share it with the world. Unlearning is really a course that I've been lecturing for 7 years, but I've made it bigger, I've made it better, and I'm excited to incorporate the performing arts. I do not believe that unlearning needs to be clinical and boring. We can also make unlearning entertaining and fun.
To anyone that would want to enroll in this course, it will not only benefit you academically, but also individually. It will assist you in presenting yourself as the true individual that you are, but it will also assist you in healing and journeying the life process.
This course was the missing puzzle piece that I needed in my journey of self-transformation and self-discovery. And most of all, this course taught me how to unlearn this toxic behavior and how to choose happiness and positivity in the present and to stop worrying about tomorrow.
The gift of this course is that it is universally applicable to any personal and professional contexts. Cornerstone, learn to change the world.
In this time of great uncertainty, there's one thing you can be certain of: your education. Our wide range of online programs let you upskill yourself and earn a leading-edge qualification from the comfort of your own home. We've been educating Africa for 50 years, so we know how to adapt to our forever-changing landscape. Learn to change the world and take control today. Speak to one of our student advisors. Visit cornerstone.ac.za to enroll now.
Hi, you're listening to the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, a partnership between Bush Radio and Cornerstone Institute, a non-profit private institute of higher learning in Cape Town. For the past 4 years, more than 100 of South Africa's top thinkers, intellectuals, and social activists have shared their thoughts and insights with Cornerstone audiences about how to overcome some of our toughest social, economic, and political challenges. They've looked at issues such as gender-based violence, urban food security, and the impact of COVID-19 on higher education. These debates are now coming to you via this 2-hour radio show, as well as streaming via Facebook and YouTube. It will also be edited into a 1-hour podcast for listening at your convenience. Hosted by veteran journalist Ryan Fortune, it will see a rotating lineup of guests, speaking on topics such as community health and wellness, the state of African book publishing, the viability of a basic income grant in South Africa, policing and gangsterism on the Cape Flats, contemporary Khoisan conflicts, the pitfalls and opportunities in the current state of the internet, and much, much more. We hope you enjoy these discussions and encourage you to call in with your thoughts, ideas, questions, and solutions at Bush Radio on 021 448 3277 or message us on Bush Radio WhatsApp at 061 862 1065. If you're watching our live stream on Cornerstone's Facebook page or YouTube channel, please feel free to leave your comments there.
Sport has the power to inspire unity and patriotism. It also has the power to transform individuals and communities for the better. Good evening, this is Danny Peterson. I'm standing in for Ryan Fortune this evening, and I'm hosting the Critical Dialogues live from Bush Radio 89.5 FM. And this evening we'll be talking about the power of sport. We'll be talking about equal opportunity when it comes to the development of the potential of sporting heroes, and we'll be chatting to the national sport and the national psyche. I have 2 guests in the studio this evening. I have 4 guests, but I'm starting with our 2 guests, young man named Traigh Pathon and his dad, David van Schalkwyk. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Danny. Thank you. Evening to your guests, listeners as well.
Good evening. Traigh, I believe you played a full round of golf today. How many holes was that?
18 holes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
And what time? What kind of day is that? What time do you start when we talk about you playing, 18 rounds of golf?
It could be any time. I played today at like 1 o'clock.
Okay, so you started at 1:30?
Yes.
Yeah. So I saw on Facebook, I saw you obviously you do get, he has a coach, right?
Yes, he had a coach. Golf with youngsters, it's very important that you give them the right fundamentals and foundation to play the sport. So for the past 2 years, Traigh hasn't had a coach, partly due to COVID reasons, but mainly just because golf needs to be a fun sport. And so if you keep it very technical all of the time, some kids do get lost in that. But Traigh's, he hasn't had a coach for a little while.
But you're quite dedicated, I noticed, Traigh. So I like I said, I did some research and I saw on Facebook, I saw a Saturday morning, you were on the golf course at 9 o'clock and it was 9 degrees Celsius. It was like in the heart of winter. And I don't know if your mom or dad does your posts for you. and it just saw a hashtag drive or something like that. Tell us more about what makes you get up so early on an icy cold winter morning.
I just want to play, and yeah, I just like getting up in the morning to feel much better.
And improving your golf drive, because I see your favorite club is the.
I don't really have a favorite club anymore.
Oh, you don't
I
have a
just-
favorite club anymore.
Yeah,
What used to be your favorite club?
Yeah,
I don't know. I
because
don't
I'm pretty
remember.
sure I saw that your favorite club was the driver.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Can you tell Danny why
Yeah.
did you think your putter was your favorite club in your bag?
Ah,
Because
Tell
I
us about
couldn't
that.
miss a putt ever.
you didn't miss a putt ever.
There was
Yeah.
there was a stage where you couldn't miss a putt, and if you can't putt,
You can't win tournaments.
Exactly. I'm so glad you're telling us about that, David. So just tell me, I mean, you're obviously a full-time dedicated in terms of, I see you, he's full-time caddy and full-time mentor and sidekick with Traigh. And what does it take for a parent to invest that much in just helping a kid develop the gift that they have for a particular sport? And you were the one who noticed,
yeah, I
the
mean,
first.
firstly, it's just an amazing experience as a parent to be able to bond with your kid.
Yeah.
In any sporting code, in any sporting activity. Even if you're doing music, if you're doing all sorts of other sports, that parent-child bond, it's an amazing experience as a parent. And Traigh and I, sometimes we have loads of fun because that's the great thing about golf. He doesn't hit the ball as long as I do, or not as far, and whatever the case may be, but we can still compete, and that's the nature of golf, and that's why golf is such an amazing sport. But yes, when Traigh was younger, he had this amazing hand and eye coordination. We picked up on that from the age of about 2 years old. Now Traigh's got a saying, like he started eating balls when he came out of his mom's womb, and ever since then, he's fallen in love with the game. And his mom and I used to sit at the River Club when they were there for hours and hours, and we had to beg him to go home. And as he's grown, things have evolved. Some of the other interests have come in, like for example, PlayStation, friends, school, holidays, all of those things. And it's just amazing to see how the child evolves. And being golf as his primary sport, he does do other sporting codes at school, but it's just amazing to see how they evolve, how they grow, and how they get entrenched in the game. And it's just fantastic to be a part of that, and see that. And yes, he has got an amazing ability. He's got a unique golf swing. He's got a natural mechanics for the game. And as parents, we just need to nurture that, give them the opportunities, give them the platform, and hopefully from there they can excel.
I think that's
on their own.
incredible. I think that is really, really awesome. And then you've been playing for golf technically for 9 years then. If what your dad is telling me is that you started at around 1.5, 2?
Yeah. About then.
Does it ever get old? You don't ever get bored or think, I don't feel like playing golf today?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? And then on those days, what would you do if you decided, okay, I'm going to just give golf a break today and just be a kid?
It depends. If
Depends.
it's a hot day,
Mm.
I would probably swim.
Yeah?
And if it's a very cold day, I'll just play games and that's other stuff.
That's
Watch
incredible.
TV.
Tell me, I see you've got quite a collection of silverware, right? So you've won quite a few prizes, firsts, seconds. when you're getting ready for a tournament, competition like that, what kind of preparation do you do, Traigh? Tell us about what do you need. How do you get your mind sort of tuned in? Like, I'm going to be really, really competitive and very good at my game today.
I just think that no one will beat me today. I'll just try and do my best and just, yeah.
And so, what Dan is asking is like, before you go to a tournament, how much practice do you need to actually put in? How much hours do you have to spend putting, chipping, on the driving range? That kind of preparation. So, like for example, if you had a tournament in Scotland in May, what would you do leading up to that tournament?
I would probably go to the range a lot. We would get early. We would go to the golf course like 2 days or a day before, and then we practice there. We play probably a round of golf, and then we just see where we must go from there, and then see where we must hit the ball and yeah, find our targets.
That is so exciting. And do you get to meet your competitors for international or national tournaments? Do you get to meet the other boys that you are competing against?
Sometimes when we go to the range or the golf course, we will probably see them there.
Yeah. And have you become friends with some of your competitors?
Yes, I have.
Some
Lots
friendly
of friends.
competition?
Loads of friends at the moment.
It must be awesome to have a friend who actually enjoys the same sport as you. And tell us, where are you attending school at the moment, Traigh?
I am at Weinberg Boys Junior School.
All right. And how was this year, academically?
Academically, it wasn't the worst, but it was pretty good.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you're looking forward to your holidays. Will you be playing a lot of golf this holiday? Is what I want to know.
Yeah.
And how much golf is that?
I don't really know how much golf it is. I played quite a bit in the holidays already.
Yeah. David, it takes quite a bit of resources. I mean, your wife and yourself, just in terms of, it's petrol, it's time, it's getting there. How have you guys managed to keep fostering this?
Definitely the most expensive commodity is time. I think that is one of the most difficult things to do. But we have to alternate. We find a balance somehow, especially leading up to golf tournaments. It's travel costs. Sometimes you have to go in, if it's a golf course you're not familiar with, you have to drive all the way there.
Yeah.
Go and do preparation work on the golf course on the day, and then but it's worthwhile. The costs do rack up. I can tell you that much. But it's a sport that we love. It's a sport that Traigh is really good at. So the investment is mainly our time, I would say.
And you've also gotten some pretty awesome and cool sponsorships. I saw for your travel you got.
Oh yeah, we were lucky.
Tell us about that and tell us about that. Was that your first international trip, Scotland, or was that?
No, Malaysia was.
Was Malaysia your first one?
Yeah, we were lucky and blessed actually. When Turkish Airlines spotted Traigh, I think he was about 7 years old, and ever since then we had an amazing relationship with Turkish Airlines, and it's a pity that we're in this times that we are right now. Otherwise, we'd have continued that trajectory, and that was beautiful. But yeah, thanks to them, we managed to play tournaments out in Malaysia. We managed to play Scotland on 2 occasions, and we also we also traveled to a beautiful state in North Carolina in the US and played Pinehurst. And so we had some amazing traveling experiences as well. Yes.
And what was that like for you, Traigh?
It was very fun. I really liked it.
And Malaysia, tell me, and just tell me, like, are the golf courses, are they the same? Are they different? What is the experience like going from, say, Malaysia to Scotland to the US? Is it different for you?
Yes, sometimes it's different. One course can be easy, the other course can be hard. One course can be hard, The greens and fairways can be hard, it can be soft on another time, and could be raining, could be hot.
Yeah, so you experience like different cultures, you experience different climates as well. So like in Scotland it was really cold, like
Really, really cold.
yeah, like 2 degrees, and you're up at like 5:30 in the morning to get ready for the day, and then you go to the US and it's thunderstorming because it's so humid and it's so hot. So we have to adjust to all of those types of things as well.
So it's not just the actual fairway that's the challenge. So you have the challenge of weather. When you're having a bad day on the golf course, how do you keep yourself prepped up to continue with the next shot? Say, for instance, you're already so maybe you're not getting the shots that you want and you're a little bit over par. And how do you keep yourself motivated? I mean, I'm just trying to imagine being an 11-year-old and not wanting to give up and going, oh, how frustrating is it? And how do you keep yourself motivated going?
I must just think the next shot counts, and then I can never know what the other people are doing. They could also be doing bad, and I must just try and keep myself motivated. And the next shot is better than breathing.
Tell us about a moment maybe that you've had where you were just so frustrated because you were just hitting one bad shot after another, and you decided, now I've got to finish this. Tell us about.
Today.
Was today one of those days?
Yeah.
Did you have a double R?
Not really.
Not a double R, just an R.
Yeah.
Tell us about today.
Today wasn't the greatest. I didn't play well. And yeah, I played really bad.
And you're taking it in your stride? You're deciding it's part of the journey?
Yep.
To success?
Everything just...
And how does dad keep you motivated?
He just looks at me and laughs sometimes.
Tell us about what you do, Dad. Tell us about how you keep him just focused and going and.
Sure, I that's again the unique thing about golf is that you are, it's an individual sport, right? So it's all about yourself. And I don't think Traigh's being 100% honest, because at some times, even adults, I think every golfer will end up wanting to throw their clubs in the dam, break it over your leg.
Break it, kick the caddy. Don't kick the caddy.
Exactly, right?
Get your face.
But it's just natural. It comes out because you are aware of your own ability and what you should be doing, and things just don't happen that way because the weather conditions are different, or your body's not reacting the same as it did yesterday. So things change. But how does one keep him motivated? You always got to repeat the same story. Traigh, your next shot is the most important shot in golf. You can't change the past. You can't change the past. And I do believe that one day when he's probably a little bit more mature, that all of those things will click. And
it's such a metaphor for life, golf. Don't you think?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is. Because you just never know what's around the corner, do you? I mean, you really don't know whether your next decision, your next shot is going to pay off or not. And if it doesn't pay off, how do you just, when things go wrong, how do you keep going? So tell us about your future plans, Traigh. I mean, once, you're free to fly and free to move in and out. I believe you have some things up your sleeve.
I really haven't thought of that yet.
You haven't thought of that yet?
Yes. We're just thinking of the present right now.
Okay, that's great.
We do have
and for you, David.
For me, well, I'm just a social golfer. I play club golf. So I would really like to see Traigh, be more invested. Right now, I think right now he's at the age where he needs to be a little bit more invested in the game. And upcoming, there are some Western Province tournaments. So last year, towards the end of this year, Traigh made the Western Province under 13 team, which was quite a nice accolade for him. And in January, you sort of lose all of that, and you got to go again, and you got to go and qualify again. So you got to go and make the team again. So that's something nice to look out to. They have a Western Province Under 13 tournament coming up in Katberg, out in Vereniging, I think it is, in March. And so there's tournaments all the way from the 4th of Jan right up until that period, and you got to play your way into the team. So I think that's going to probably be our next focus.
I think Traigh is going to be amazing. I just think it's going to be very, very, very awesome. I saw that pic, by the way, Traigh. Who prepared you for that? Tell us about your Western Province jacket. So you're looking proud as punch. Who got you prepped for that beautiful picture?
Oh, that was taken at the tournament.
Yeah.
Was it taken at the tournament?
Yes.
Just after you got your...
Yeah.
When the announcement
was
was
just
made?
after, right?
No, it was at the tournament in Johannesburg at ERPM. Before the tournament, they took the pictures. You had your Blazers opening ceremony, I think it was. Or was it after?
I don't know.
Can't remember.
I think it's after.
Just after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Traigh was lucky also to meet some golfing superstars.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Brandon
Traigh,
Stone invited him.
That is great.
Who else did you meet?
I met Rory, Brandon Grace, Sergio Garcia, and a lot more other
I'm
pros.
excited for you. Traigh, I really am inspired by you and excited for you, ladies and gents. We get a real star on the rise here. We're going to take a little break, a short break, a musical break.
Did you hear the news on the radio today? People have agreed to give their love away. I can't wait to be there in line. No, no. Politicians have agreed to honor and obey. They'll come down and listen to what the people say. I can't wait to be there in line. No, no. Whoa. Doobie, 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 doobie. Doobie, 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 doobie. Children will play in the streets, loving everyone they meet. Open hearts will be the rhythm of the day. Neighbors will greet each other, sisters and the brothers, even enemies will come to be friends. Whoa, I can't wait to be there in line. No, 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 no. Whoa, doobie, 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 doobie. Doobie, 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 doobie. If you are ready, feel free to come around. If you are ready, oh, venga amigo, irrelevati là. If you are ready, whoa, whoa, whoa. Say you want to live in love and kindness every day. Say you know the meaning of love. See every person that you meet as every you and every me. And then I'll know you feel the rhythm of love, love, love. Whoa, I can't wait to be there in line. No, no, no. what I mean? Clap and stomp your feet if you hear what I mean. Clap and stomp your feet if you hear what I mean. Clap and stomp your feet if you hear what I mean. Clap and stomp your feet. What's happening, Cape Town? It's a girl B.
This is Black Coffee. When I wait my fare to this is Cabello, aka Mr. Booger Two Shoes.
Bush Radio, the station with the best music. 89.5 FM.
Don't touch that dial.
Doobie Dubai. I chose that song because I think if there's ever a creative equivalent for the World Cup Rugby, then I think Freshly Ground is it. I mean, that band just came along and swept us along and united us behind this. Everyone was singing Doobie Doo when they released the song. My next guests are Ally and Carolyn, and they are from PlaySport4Life. Welcome, Ally and Carolyn.
Thank you for having me.
So, Carolyn, I'm going to start with you because I hear that you have been at PlaySport4Life for the longest. Tell us a little bit about what PlaySport4Life is and what you guys do and how it is your organization speaks to the sport as a unifying medium and language.
Thank you, Danny, and thanks for having us this evening. I think it's an awesome opportunity. PlaySport4Life is a registered NPO and NGO. We've been in existence since 2014. From the offset, two young guys started the organization.
Tell us about those two guys.
The founder director being Miles October,
yes,
who just completed his MBA. And he had the need to want to start up something because it was something that he was missing in his life because he's a sports person. And he came up with the organization called PlaySport4Life. And alongside him, my younger son, Carl Inglis, who had just graduated with an honors at UWC in sports science and recreation.
Yeah.
And he filled that position with Miles at PlaySport4Life, and together they started this brand.
Incredible.
One of the first schools that they got in contact with was a school called W.D. Hendricks. And W.D. Hendricks is a no school fees school in the community of Factoryton. And a lot of the kids there that attend the school are from families who are less fortunate than many of us. There's a lot of child-headed homes, single parenting, and just a lot of trying times that happen in that community. And W.D. Hendricks was the first school to put up their hand to say that they would like PlaySport4Life to be part of the family. And that is how the whole program actually started in the Kensington and the Factoryton community.
And so you started with basically nothing, no programs. You just decided we're going to reach out to one school and we're going to start there. And we'll start with the poorest community around us. And you tell us a little bit about just how you came to be a part of the organization, just so we get some background on.
Last year, March, when the borders closed, my background is tourism and events. Everything closed down and I got involved in the community action networks. So we started up one in Pinelands. I then reached out to Miles and Carolyn at PlaySport, who were based Kensington Maitland side. And I said, well, we've kind of got the resources in Pinelands. We share a postal code with Kensington Maitland and Factoryton. So why don't we tag team? We'll fundraise here and then we'll share across Voortrekker Road on that side. I think it was June, July. I seem to just have slotted into the family. And then Miles said, well, why don't you come and join us until such time as tourism starts up again? And that's what we did. In December, most people went back to work. And so the KenFAC can and the Pinans can, although we still work with everyone,
Yes.
basically said to us, well, PlaySport4Life, you running with everything anyway, so go ahead. And then that's how I became part of the PlaySport family.
That is incredible. Caroline, coming just back to, so you started with your first school in Factoryton. How many schools are your programs being run at now?
So currently...
I mean, you've been in existence, it's 8 years, right?
Correct, yes. So for the past 2 years, we were unfortunately not able to do any work in the schools because of COVID.
Because of COVID, yeah.
But prior to that, we had impacted 7 schools in the community, 7 primary schools and 2 high schools. And during the first 2 years of the life of PlaySport4Life, we had 2 coaches per school. And what the coaches needed to do was partner with the educator through the life orientation curriculum. And through that subject, physical education was part of it. And our coaches then obviously took on that role because physical education, as many would know, was taken out of schools a long time ago. And we can clearly see that there's a dire need for physical activity and recreation in our schools. And that is sorely missed. And this is one of the reasons why PlaySport4Life decided they want to get involved with schools. They want to see activities in the school because our kids are growing, putting on weight, and they're growing oversized, etc., and they clearly just not being the active kids that they should be.
And seeing the health implications, and also it gives your coaches. So your coaches obviously teach the sporting side. Tell me, Ali, just in terms of how do you integrate using the sport now, as a vehicle. How do you use these opportunities where you are engaging with the kids to impart other skills, life skills, or whatever? And should be actually asking you, are you using those as opportunities to engage with them and develop them?
We definitely are. So if you tell a teenager, come for some transformational coaching or come for some mentorship, they're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
That's boring. What are you talking about? Why would I want to be doing that in my spare time? So we created a program called the Game Changers. And we did this during COVID, where we enticed the kids with sport.
Wow.
We entice them with sport and food. Food and sports, very, very important. And we'd invite them on a Friday afternoon. And we'd start off our sessions with kind of cafe conversations. We worked a lot with Karen Burt from Luminosity Lab. She does transformational coaching. And we got to know the kids and we started building relationships. And it was very interesting for us. The first week or two, it was tough to get them to settle, to actually start having these conversations. The sport always came after. So you always had to complete something from a self-development.
So they became almost a sort of captive audience. Now
Yes.
you had the captive audience and then...
Yeah. And then about, I think, 3-4 weeks in, we were chatting, we were asking the kids for feedback. And the one boy actually stood up and he said, Coach, we used to come for this sport and now we come to listen because we're learning so many things that we've never heard of before. Beliefs, things that have been passed down to us that we just took for granted. That is how it is. This is where we are and this is where we're going to be. And I mean, I said to Carolyn, I think about a week ago, we got a message from one of the boys to say, hey, Coach, I made it to matric.
Amazing.
So we enticed them with the sport, but we've been able to impart so many things and we've been able to expose them to so many things. Hikes up the mountain. We're 6 kilometers from Newlands Forest. Some of the boys had never been into the forest. We've taken them on different day outings just to get them out of the environment and to show them what's possible. Carolyn is amazing at sports administration. And so it was having conversations with the kids as well around sport. You don't only have to be a professional athlete, but there's many elements to sport.
Yes.
I mean, look at what Carolyn has achieved in her lifetime. So we're just opening up little possibilities and opening up little conversations that they've never thought of, because they only think that the sports person, the Tiger Woods or the Lewis Hamilton.
They don't actually see the journey.
They don't
actually see the journey.
And they only see the actual sports person. They don't see everything else that happens around them.
Yeah, they don't see the actual trial that the Tiger Woods. I mean, I was just thinking and chatting to Traigh now, and his dad, and I mean, he gets up on an icy cold winter morning, and he gets up and he goes to the golf course. He goes and he does his practicing his drive, and I mean, coming in. I'm just thinking now, comparing Traigh with, the kids that you've now described, who obviously under-resourced homes, also under, shall I say, there's not really a lot of motivation or investment, spiritual investment, like I see with Traigh and David. The actual spiritual investment in the child and wanting to see that kid reach their full potential. How do you, through your programs, how do you combat that, the poverty, not just the material poverty, but the actual psychological poverty, or so to speak?
Okay, so it's extremely difficult, because a child that doesn't have food in its tummy cannot come to a sports field and be as active as another child would be. However, I think our kids, even though they're under trying circumstances, I think they are motivated enough to want to achieve, and they would go that extra mile. I mean, we have so many kids, and I use a program which is the Sport for Development, and our clubs that are aligned to that. There's a few clubs in the community that's aligned to that program, and we've had a lot of achievements. We've had lots of successes through that, and the kids wanting to reach a specific goal. And we have had a number of kids, probably about 15, 16 kids, if I think one code alone, which is baseball, that have achieved provincial colours and SA colours, irrespective of the conditions that they live and that they are under-resourced in their own homes and in our community. It doesn't matter. They want to be just like everyone else. They are children. We just need to nurture them.
And you take the role then of the parent in terms of being the David to the Traigh.
We do indeed. I think...
for them to be able to reach and really stay motivated, despite, I think life's challenging enough. And then if you're not dealt the best cards, and you don't have parents who are really invested, kids tend to wallow in a lot of hopelessness. So I'd like to just understand what it takes for you, because you have kids of your own, and then you have these kids that you are also invested in, what it takes for you, and how proud does it make you feel? You were going to say, Ally.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. We've had to meet the kids where they are. And so we are on a number of WhatsApp groups with all of these kids. And so to some degree, we've had to become teenagers ourselves with WhatsApp and Snapchat and all TikToks and doing all these funny little things. We've found, as you say, there's hopelessness. But there's also some parents that want to be invested, but they just don't have the time. They can't be there. And so we have conversations with those parents, and they're grateful that we can step in and that we can provide kind of a supportive role as well. It's not easy. Carolyn's phone, my phone, it doesn't stop. My husband and my children will tell you that. They're like, why are teenage boys SMSing you at 5 o'clock in the evening? Shouldn't they be studying? But it's because actually I'm writing maths tomorrow. Can you help me with a problem?
Yes.
So it's not a 9 to 5 and then you switch off. You
Yeah.
become the second mom or the coach or the mentor, and so you're always on. So yeah, sometimes it's a lot, but it's very rewarding. It's rewarding when you get the message to say, "Hey, I've passed. Hey, I want to do my
Amazing.
learners. Hey, let's try this." So it's gone beyond sport, but it's sport that brings it all together.
Incredible. Tell us a little bit about just some of these success stories, Carolyn. I mean, so I'm sure you have quite a few that you can share. Just tell us about one or two of these kids that you were talking about on who have gotten their Western Province and their provincial and national,
Yes, I mean, two kids come to mind for me particularly. The one who comes from Factoryton, and the other one lives in Kensington, so it's quite opposite,
Mm.
even though it's one community.
Mm.
But Kensington is seen more as an affluent community compared to Factoryton. So the child that I'm referring to grew up in Factoryton. He saw the PlaySport4Life vehicle passing his home,
Wow.
and he wanted to know, what does that name on the van says? And he followed the van, and he chatted to the person in the van, and the person invited him down to the playing field at 14th Avenue in Kensington. He came and he was introduced to baseball. From the start, he loved it. Today, that young man is matriculated. He's come into our homes. He's become a child of ours. And
Oh,
he
I
lives on
can,
the...
I can see you getting quite emotional. This is just wonderful how much you guys invest in these kids.
He's living on the property of our offices now. He's shown to be
Wow.
such a great leader. This young man is exceptional, to say the least. He has no qualms of walking from Maitland to Kensington to go and collect children in Factoryton, to round them up, to take them up for training sessions. Nothing is a problem for him. He was chosen as, from I think under 14 already, as a provincial baseballer, and he's excelled. He's done extremely well for himself. And then you have another kid who lives in Kensington, who has a mom and a dad in his home, and he has a sister that nurtures him, that motivates him, that supports him, that goes to the field with him every Saturday. And he's also done extremely well for himself. But what I like about it is, and he's managed to reach his SA colors. And what I like about it is that the two boys that I'm referring to are now becoming buddies.
Amazing.
And I think they are reaching out to each other. And for me, that is always great, because we as coaches and as mothers who go and support our kids on a Saturday, and even though it's not our own kids, but we go there and we go and support them. We load our cars up with kids to take them to the sport field, because we know what sport has done for us in our lives and for our children. And that for us is for me particularly is extremely important, because they need that support. The parental support is extremely important for me.
I'm just listening to you and seeing how just emotionally invested you are in these children. And I'm thinking of a movie that's just come out now called, is it of the Serena sisters, Serena and Venus Williams sisters, yeah. Their dad, the movie about how, he decided that he was going to produce two, number one and number two in the world. And this man wrote a 78-page manifesto before his kids were even born to say, this is what I predict my 2 daughters are going to achieve. And it is it's a life investment. Does Miles have any clue how impactful his idea, just that he decided, oh, I've done my MBA, but I want to do more? I've met Miles and he's a very modest man. He's very low key. He doesn't like to be in the limelight. How does his relationship with his kids? Because I mean, they now, as you were saying, the one kid is living on the property. Tell me more about his investment, because you are the moms, and I'm obviously assuming that it would be the coaches and the and Miles who would fulfill that fatherly sort of, role model. Tell us about Miles.
I think so. Miles is quite playful.
Yeah,
he's the fun guy.
Oh, is he the
So we're the strict moms, and he's the fun guy. And so I think he's done very well for himself in business outside of PlaySport4Life. And so I think he has a role, a big brother role more. So the boys can come to him, they can have the conversations with him, and they look up to him. They look up to him because he brings his own son to come, and I mean his little one is only going to be 2, but he's there with his partner and the baby on a Saturday, watching the kids play sport. So I don't think Miles thinks about it much in terms of what or how he's impacted. I think he just does it. It's just part of who he is. And so it's, there's no measurement almost. No one,
No, I don't think he ever did it for, obviously, for any kind of reward. But it, I often, when I come across NPOs and NGOs who are, it's civil society saying, look, there's a problem. Government is not solving the problem. And like you just said now, that the PE, the physical education programs, were taken out of schools. And you cannot raise a holistic child without some kind of creative activity, some kind of physical activity, and then obviously your academic and knowledge-based activities. And how NGOs have come to the fray. How have you managed to fund what you do? What, I mean, you were talking about you sharing a code, a postal code between 3 areas that are, I mean, quite, Panans and Factoryton are as far apart as we are from Jupiter. And how do you rally the support within that, just that collective, that community, even though that there's that divide in terms of material, resources?
So maybe if I can just comment around that, it's extremely difficult. I mean, we've been very fortunate that Miles, as the founder director, got involved from the very beginning. And because he did extremely well in his business, he wanted this NGO. He wanted it to work because he missed something in his life when he was away from Cape Town. He didn't have sport. And he was an ardent sports person himself, growing up in Kensington. He knows the community. He knows the shortcomings. He knows the challenges. So it was a dream of his to want to plow back into his own community. And Kensington was it. He plowed his money into it. And it's been running now for the last, going on for 8 years. And in the last year or 2, he's kind of stepped back and allowed Ally and myself to run with the organization. And I think it would be the right space now for Ally to come in here, because Ally is actually the CEO of PlaySport4Life. And
Ally's low-key.
she's low-key, but she is. She's the head of the family now, and Miles walks alongside us. We won't be able to do it without him. But yeah, the two ladies have taken on the reins, and
That is phenomenal.
I think Ali
Two
can.
women running this amazing organization. Come on, Ali. You've been sitting on this little secret and you didn't even tell me when we spoke yesterday.
No,
Yeah?
you know, I call myself the chief cheerleader.
The chief cheerleader.
I'm not big on red tape and status and symbols and all those things. I do like to make money. In my previous life, when I worked in a hotel, I was a revenue manager. And so the agreement was at the beginning of the year was that we were going to make the organization sustainable. And in doing that, we were going to teach the community and move from kind of a hand out to a hand up situation. And so in everything that we do, that's what we try and do. So we try and instill business principles into everything.
Fantastic. Tell me more.
And so because I've also got a background in corporate, it's easy to network because people buy from people. And people that know me know I talk a lot and I don't mind asking, can you help? And I think that that's what we've done in the last year is we've reached out to our networks because I think that there's a lot of people that want to help. They just don't know how. So Carolyn and I can get emotional and we can get down and dirty with the kids and we can hear the sobby stories. And then you'll get someone else that'll say, actually, I can't do that, but I can maybe tutor a child or I can do this. And that's how we've done it. So we've created various strategies, fundraising events, and in that also teaching the kids. I think Carolyn can expand a little bit more on the current holiday program that we're running, because we've been able to use all the little business principles that we try to instill in the kids into this program. So to build leaders so that they know we don't want the fourth generation to be standing in the line at the soup kitchen. We want to show you quickly how to make money and how to grow that so that you become economically
So you
active.
become the job creators and not the job seekers.
Correct.
And this program is running currently? Tell us more about it, Caroline.
It's a school holiday program, and we were funded by the Department of Sport and Culture. And the program has been running for the past 3 days, and it's hosted at the sports field in Kensington. We're working with about 100 kids. That's coming.
That's a big number.
They come daily for 4 times of the week. And we identified the ambassadors of the game changers. So 10 of the coaches that is heading the program are 16 and 17-year-olds.
Amazing.
They are mentored and managed by 4 of the seniors. And these young men and young women are the leaders on the field every single day. And after every day's work, we would gather them and we will have a conversation around what worked, what didn't work, why didn't it work, what did you learn. And in particularly today, we focused on the challenges that they had today, and they were all over the show. And we said to them, so can you see now, you are complaining about the kids that don't want to listen and they don't want to follow instructions. We had to go through that with you as well. And so they understand now that they need to lead and they need to take charge. And so hopefully by the time they finish off after the 16 days, every person would know how to take care of some administration, which is the attendance registers, the COVID registers. They would be able to tell us how many kids is on there, how many kids need to be fed, how many girls is there, how many boys is there, and the different stations that they are running, how it impacted themselves, but also the kids, how to run these different stations. And so in 4 weeks' time, they can run their own program.
So they're really just getting this opportunity to learn through doing, through actually doing the work, and through heading and leading a group. That is incredible. And how do you handpick? How do you pick your ambassadors? How, what are the qualities? So what if I was 16, what would you need to see in me for you to say, okay, I think Danny will make a good ambassador?
I think at the beginning, when we started the program and we started with a room full of kids, 50, 60 of them, you could see after, because we did the transformational coaching with them, you could see after the third session who was going to show up. And so we've got a little saying that you show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And we could see who was stepping forward, inquiring a little bit. You could just pick it up in their behavior. I don't know. There's not one thing in particular that I can say.
So they would be consistent. I mean, they need to, like you said, show up. They would have to show up consistently.
Participate in the discussions.
I'm just thinking of if there's a 16, 17-year-old out in Kensington right now thinking, gosh, there's some, place I'm not doing anything with my holidays. Not that they join you now, obviously, but I'm just saying, or a kid at high school, 13, 14 years old, thinking, gosh, I didn't even know that, there's this program that's running during the holidays. How do I get into a program like that?
So everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome to the holiday program.
Is the holiday program, it's a free program?
Yeah.
So if there's anyone listening out in Kensington, Factoryton right now, guys, Play Sport for Life, you can pitch up on you said 14th Avenue, corner of 14th Avenue and?
Factoryton Avenue.
And Factoryton Avenue. And you can come and speak to these lovely ladies, Carolyn and Ally.
And we serve breakfast and lunch.
And they serve breakfast and lunch. Oh, wow. Who does the catering? 100? I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of the numbers. 100
So we use community persons, community women. Yeah. They do all the cooking for us.
So you got the investment in terms of time.
Yeah, because we have a food relief program as well that we run, where we serve up to 7,000 people, and from that we obviously invested in them, and so through that we've asked them to join in with the holiday program. So one or two of the ladies are helping us cooking and preparing the meals to serve the young people.
Amazing. And what kind of is it lekker kos? Can I tell them that it's lekker kos?
No, it's good food. It's decent food. We're wanting to spoil the kids.
I think it's just incredible, and it must be just such a relief for mums out there who are working or maybe are not working, and especially with COVID having hit that there are families that don't have, possibly any bread in the home, that they can send the kid out and know that they'll be taken care of and that they'd be safe. I think it's just incredible what you guys are doing. And Miles October, if you're listening right now, seriously, you are such a mensch, such an incredible initiative that you have started. I think Play Sport for Life can certainly, be a case study for other NGOs as to, what it takes to run and develop a successful NGO. And I think you've chosen an amazing, an incredible CEO. She doesn't like the title, but I think you have done an amazing job. And Carolyn, you're heading up your development programs. Really, it's just amazing what you guys are doing. We're going to go to a little bit of an ad break.
89.5 FM, the mother of community radio in Africa.
For those of you out there feeling that you missed your chance at getting a higher education, there's still time. Make 2022 your year and grab the chance. Whether you're after a degree or a higher certificate, Cornerstone Institute offers an extensive range of programs from psychology and business to community development and education. With so many options, your future couldn't be brighter. Applications are now open, so visit cornerstone.ac.za today to enroll. Your future starts at Cornerstone.
Bush Radio, the station with the best music. 89.5 FM.
Don't touch that dial.
Community Champions is a new show on Bush Radio every Thursday at 9 p.m. Cornerstone Institute CEO Noel Daniels is the host and chats with various community champions about their life, their work, their struggles, and the music that inspires them to keep fighting for a better world. Conversational and laced with humor, the show is part of a new collaboration between Bush Radio and Cornerstone Institute, a private institute of higher learning in Cape Town, offering a range of on-campus and online programs in community development, psychology, business, and much more. If you're looking for inspiration on how to change the world, tune in to Community Champions on Bush Radio 89.5 FM with Cornerstone CEO Noel Daniels every Thursday at 9 p.m.
Thank you if you're listening right now. This is Danny Peterson standing in for Ryan Fortune. This evening we are having a critical dialogue about sport and the national psyche. And I've had some incredible guests this evening. I've chatted with Traigh Pathon and his father, David van Schalkwyk, a little earlier. And then I had a chat with Ally and Carolyn, who are from an organization called PlaySport4Life. In the studio with me now, I have Danny Jones and Ally. Danny Jones is the general manager for Western Cape Rugby. And we're going to be chatting about just how we can take the power of sport to facilitate potential to its highest outcome. I think that is definitely the intention when one talks about sport is ultimately you really want to see a kid develop and reach their full potential. So, Danny, welcome to the studio. You may say hello to our listeners.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening, Danielle. Good evening,
Good evening.
It's good to be here. I always thought Bush Radio was a link to my alma mater, UWC, but it's not, but I'm glad to be in the studio.
You're still glad to be in the studio?
Yes, for sure.
It was linked to, it started obviously at UWC many years ago, did it not? Bush Radio, I'm almost sure that it has its origins there. Anyway, we digress. But just coming back to Western Province Rugby, tell us how Western Province Rugby is doing these days, especially in this no contact. What has COVID, how has COVID changed how you operate?
Look, COVID has a big impact globally and also locally. And with reference to rugby, it definitely has had a big impact. Western Province Rugby sits obviously in the Greater Cape Town, but it has a professional component and an amateur component.
Yeah.
And I always use the iceberg model in that what you see are the Stormers and the professional component, but there's a lot happening below the surface of this in the sea as such, and that's where Western Province Rugby Football Union sits as such. They engage with regard to schools, clubs, referees, all the amateur component, and then on top of that is our professional component, which is the Stormers and the Currie Cup teams as such. Now, as you know, we have been playing rugby, both amateur rugby as well as professional rugby. On the professional rugby side, the Stormers is participating in the URC, which is a competition between South African teams, the Celtic European teams of Ireland, Wales, and Scotland, and obviously and Italy, of course. And then obviously they're not Celtic. I think they're more Gaelic or whatever, and then obviously the South African components. So we play in that space. It has been good. It has been competitive, but in South Africa we could only play the last match, which was on the 5th of December, the 14th of December, we played with, we were allowed to have 2,000 spectators in the stadium, which was great, but it doesn't help because you need more bums on seats from a financial point of view.
Yeah. And it can't be easy. How do the players play a sport with so few spectators? I mean, how do they stay motivated? How does the actual game happen with so little people? I'm just thinking psychologically, because don't they feed off those throngs and those crowds? And I'm just thinking of rugby specifically.
No, they do. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. They enjoy and they thrive on the passion and the interaction that the spectators have with them.
Yeah.
But you adapt or die, man. And so part of the life cycle of life is the adaptation.
Yeah.
And so they adapted to playing in empty stadiums. As such, yes, they obviously had to draw more on internal motivation and all those things. But when you run onto the field and a guy tackles you, you know you're in a game and you have to get up and respond. You know what I'm saying?
You know you got to, you got to sort him out.
100%, definitely.
I'm glad to hear that there are still some games being played. Just tell me, if I were the boy in Factoryton who's maybe come through the PlaySport4Life organization, and they've decided and they've spotted my talent, and they see, oh no, this kid has real serious chops when it comes to rugby. How does a kid or a boy transition from your school rugby and get into one of your development programs, which I know, as you explained earlier on, you have an endorsed program that's run by, is it UXI? How does he transition, or how do they get into an amateur development program or a youth development program?
Look, we have a very robust and interactive primary school and high school rugby system. Before COVID, we had over 230 primary schools and junior clubs playing rugby, and then about 194 high school and junior clubs at the high school level. So that speaks about a broad base rugby sport fraternity as such. Now, we would always encourage schools to play, because the more schools who play, the more access the kids have to the game, and that's why schools are important. Where schools are not playing the game and such, we would encourage youth clubs where a number of schools in that area are not playing, but they allow their players or their learners to join the youth club. And the youth club starts playing in the leagues and all those things at the various levels.
Are there some amateur leagues? They obviously have a little...
Definitely. As I said, at school level, there are leagues all over, and there are senior level also. We have over 100 clubs playing rugby. So rugby is extremely alive, like soccer and cricket and netball. The four big codes are very much alive in Cape Town, and they play on a weekly basis or during the week. So it's quite healthy. The challenge you have, and all sports have this challenge, are the challenging components at school level, with the changing times and the input of post curricular activities in schools, where schools have to concentrate on the classroom. Yeah. And people tend to forget that the outside classroom sometimes offer more learning experiences to the development of the learner. And so you sit with those challenges. And then also we have a lot of our kids commute. They don't go to school in the area where they live. And that has its own challenges. So from Western Province side, coming back to rugby, we encourage schools, primary schools and high schools to play rugby. Where they're not, we encourage youth clubs. And through those systems, we then would get the more, you speak about mass-based sport, which is the quantity, and then we speak about talent ID, which deals with the quality.
Yeah.
So under talent ID, we would have scouts and then looking at kids as such, and then bringing them into our program. We do have a program that's run by Wilfred Kibido and Jerome Parvata at the HPC, where they look at prominent kids in poorer communities and and poorer schools where they would take them out and give them extra coaching lessons and that, so that when they do come to, because our selection process for talent ID are the school trial system.
Okay.
So everybody there is equal. When you get onto the pitch, you have to go and play. Obviously, rugby being a team sport, not an individual sport, but then you are selected from those bases to form part of the Western Province under 12 or the Western Province under 13 Craven Week, the under 15 Ikawi Week competition, and then the under 16 Grand Cormo, and then obviously the pinnacle is the under 18 Craven Week competition as such.
So I'm just thinking, I'm a Brian Habana potential, but I come from Factoryton. You know, I'm just thinking of how through the school system, if I'm coming to school hungry, or I'm, or I've got parents who are not really that invested, how does someone find me? It's almost like sifting for gold. So what kind of sort of, between Western Province Rugby and other outside organizations, what kind of relationships have you built to try?
We do believe in relationships are important. So we obviously, as an entity, we also an NGO. So we would look at other NGOs and partnering with them. And obviously we'll have the rugby component, but partnering with them so that we want kids to play and we want them to play rugby. So that's the
I'm
basic,
just thinking
and the
of
playing of rugby more, not for necessarily the talent ID, but for social cohesion, to involve, to get fit, for health and all those things. That's our main focus. If they're showing potential, then we need to look at how do we harness that potential and how do we channel the learner or the pupil into a mechanism where he can then live through their skills and be seen at another level. But that is a process. It's not an event.
It is a process. It's not a singular event. I mean, I was just listening to Carolyn talk about this young boy from Factoryton, and I was just thinking, had it not been for PlaySport4Life, and I know you don't offer, or do you offer? Maybe I'm just making an assumption. Do you offer rugby as part of one of your sporting codes? No, we don't. So I was just listening to Carolyn and how she's obviously she's watched the event. She's watched this young man, follow a PlaySport4Life vehicle, inquire about it, what is this organization about? And now he has provincial, colors. And I can't think of what untapped potential there must still be out there. And I know it's and resources. I mean, it's the biggest challenge. Resources.
For me, having grown up in education as such, I think that one of our biggest challenges sits
and the lack of the outdoor classroom, and sport being one of the components of the outdoor classroom, and there's too much focus on development through the class.
Obviously it was never to make us educated, never to make us skillful, and never to make us that, but we live beyond those barriers, and there was a more communal role. So the teacher was both the teacher in the classroom and outside of the classroom, and sport was a mechanism, because politically sport could be used to channel resistance and engage on a level outside of the laws that restricted you from engaging on a political level and those kinds of things. So sport became an important mechanism for people, resistance and that. And then obviously the byproduct of that, a lot of people were in sport. Teachers gave up their time for sport. They saw sport as part of the extended role of the educator and things like that. And many of our schools were extremely competitive, robust at those things. And many great sports persons came through. The sad thing, very few of them represented the country, but that was not because of their ability. It was the inability of the state to allow them to represent the country.
The political structure and framework at the time.
And that has been, and that vacuum in the new dispensation, there has been a drop-off of the role of the educator in the outside
of the classroom.
Definitely, and that has definitely impacted on the arts and on sport, and that's why we encourage organizations like Sport4Life and that to partner with us, because, and that's why we are involved as Western Province in our school system, is because we do see the need extra intervention to get kids to play rugby.
Yeah, it really does take a community to raise a child. Ali, please just add to that.
I completely agree with you. So if I look at the amount of space, as an example, in Kensington and Factoryton that some of the schools have, but as you say, the commute is a problem, and there are no resources. And so you were saying earlier on, kids come to school hungry. So we're first looking at those things. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy, we're first sorting all those things out. I think if there were more opportunities in the community, I'm sure we could get a lot more kids involved. I also think we are such separate beings. We all live in our little homes and we're sorting our little pod out, and so communities aren't what they used to be. Nobody's playing Kenichi in the road anymore. And so people don't see each other. So
the communal investment isn't there.
First quarter next year, actually, we are doing a mapping of the areas that we work in.
Okay. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to go now to, I think, the musical equivalent of Brian Habana. And his name is Nati Nomvula. And Nati comes from the Eastern Cape, from an area called Maclear in the Eastern Cape. And in fact, it's his birthday today as well, the 23rd of December. And I chose this song because Nati was spotted by another musician called Vusi in the Eastern Cape in a competition. And I just think what a loss it would have been had Vusi not spotted Nati at this competition. And he comes from also a very challenging background and released his first album, and this is his very, very first hit that we'll be playing now, called Nomvula. Thank you, Nati, for this beautiful song.
Ngeba siyathandana yaluba sithandane silale madunge ndibanjwa nguwe yaluba sithandane silale madunge nguwe lo yaluba sithandane silale madunge ndenziwa nguwe yaluba sithandane silale madunge basali ba ndibizelenu nafuna wa setani naye itani ivileda basali ba ndibizeleni sithandwa sa itani gusto itani ivileda sithandwa sa zalaishi mote masimini zalaisha ogondilindile zalaishi mote masimini zalaisha sithandwa sa zalaishi mote ishimote masimini zalaisha ndibanga chumela badlula ngendli awuphenduli nomvula wa ndibanga chumela abahlobo bakho awuphenduli nomvula wa ndibanga chumela badlula ngendli awubuyi nomvula wa ndibanga chumela abahlobo bakho awuphenduli nomvula wa bazali ba ndibizelenu nomvula wa thethani naye ithani yivile ndana bazali ba ndibizeleni sithandwa sam thethani naye ithani yivile ndana sithandwa sam zalaisha imote masimini zalaisha okondilindile zalaisha imote masimini zalaisha sithandwa sam zalaisha imote masimini zalaisha akavelu nomvula wakho zalaisha imote masimini zalaisha
I love that song. I don't think I'll ever get tired of listening to it. So, listeners, this evening, as I said, we are discussing, we're having a critical dialogue on sport and the national psyche, and we're really just unpacking the power of sport this evening, live on Bush Radio 89.5 FM. And then just to give you a little insight, with Cornerstone, we also have a sport management program, and I've invited my colleague and wonderful friend Judith Makuna Garish to come and join us and just tell us a little bit about the sports program and what it is that students who are thinking about perhaps pursuing sport in the future, can expect from the program.
Okay, thank you for having me in studio, Danny. I'm not a fan of the camera, but I'm here for you.
Thank you.
And essentially, Cornerstone has various programs, and one of our newest ones is a BCom in sports management. And this degree is a 3-year BCom degree.
Yeah.
It is one that covers, so like a general sports management degree, so it covers sports administration, sports marketing, sports research, sponsorships, and all of that course. But it is also very different from other courses that other institutions offer. We are the only program that offers sports management for community development. So our program has quite a community focus to it. So it's a sports management degree, not just for people who want to go into like commercial sports management and administration, but people who want to use sports for social change. So in particular, people who want to work in the NGO sectors or in sports development, this degree is tailored more towards those people.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So I'm still very new to Cornerstone. I have just a little bit of, learning to do when it comes to just the programs that we unpack. And I'm really excited to learn that we actually have this offering, and that any students out there who are considering perhaps becoming the next Danny Joneses of the future, that there is a path that they can take, and that they can follow if they want to pursue sport as a career and managing that as a career. I'm just thinking, Danny, in terms of Western Province Rugby, if we have, there is just sport has just so many sort of offshoots, and avenues that kids can and youth can pursue. When it comes to sports management, how has it changed? I mean, how you've been in the sporting world for how many years now? I know you're very reluctant to talk about your background, but I'm going to do a little fishing because I really want to see how sport management has changed, in terms of your just reflecting on our new democracy and coming from our historical background into this new dispensation. How?
Look, I think sports management is something that I'm glad is starting to take footing. I know many of the my colleagues that we employ at Western Province, they actually have a sports management degree from CPUT. As such, so I'm glad there's a Cornerstone is also looking at sports management, but with a component of in the BCom, because I think that's important. The financial component, and understanding the finance impact on sport and all those things, because it can make and break you. So I think that's a very positive step that Cornerstone is taking as such. My history in sport. I played sport as a child, and obviously I played rugby in City Park or at City Park for Perseverance. I went to UWC, graduated there, became a teacher, and carried on with both the indoor classroom and the outdoor classroom.
Yeah.
And I was involved with rugby at the schools I taught at, and then obviously I became a principal. I first taught at Ingrossi Park at Fairmount, then went to Langa. I taught at Isilimela Comprehensive School. I was the deputy principal there. And then from there, I became the principal of Wynberg High in Wynberg. And I left in 2012. I left full-time to become a rugby administrator at Western Province.
Okay.
So that's the history of my sporting engagement. I did the hard yards along the lines with coaching and education, and then that became my university with regard to sports management, and obviously I then migrated into sports management at Western Province Rugby.
That is incredible. That is incredible. I just think of just again the whole issue of under-resourced communities always, pops up. You were talking a little earlier on. Do you want to just share with us your insights in terms of just how you feel we need to just remember how very young we are as a democracy, and because everyone's banding on about and saying, look, we need resources, we need this, and I mean, our problems are so complex, the challenges that we have.
Definitely.
And you had something so salient earlier on that I asked you to please just hold off.
Look,
yeah,
there's no doubt about it that we are still sitting with the legacy of apartheid. There's no doubt about it. And we tend to forget that as a democracy, we're less than 30 years as South Africans in a democracy. And the legacy of apartheid is still with us. But we expect that everything with what has happened due to colonization and apartheid will be wished away in 30 seconds. And that's not so. We know in the new democracy, there's competing resources. Competing terrains for resources. Resources is finite, and therefore you cannot just spend as you wish. And so obviously that has impacted on education or the type of education we want to have, and all those things. And therefore I still believe that with the migration or people leaving, you find that educators are not as hands-on with regard to sport. There's not much funding given to them for schools in general to invest in sport, other than the affluent schools who actually do invest in sport.
That do invest in sport.
And you can see their kids coming through tremendously.
Yeah.
But there should be more than just private investment in sport. There should be government investment in sport. And yes, government does invest in sport through the Department of DCAS, the Department of Culture and Sport, etc., etc. But it's minuscule compared to what is needed for a more egalitarian schooling system at sport level.
That's true. I'm thinking of Nelson Mandela said in the 1995 World Cup that, sport is a language that the youth understand. When we get Judith, when we get applications, and whose doors do we go and knock on? I know you're not the one to but maybe you have some insights as to, since I'm still very, very new at Cornerstone, just give us a little bit of insight into how we would help. Could we go and knock at Western Province's door and say, help us get this young man is,
Western Province is more than welcome to sponsor some of our BCom sports management applicants. But essentially, we are an NGO, but we are a private university.
Yeah.
So we have fees to cover the cost of our lecturers and staff for the programs that we offer.
Yeah.
However, any student that applies, whether they can afford it or not, can apply for financial aid.
And I'm just thinking, I think it's fantastic. I'm just thinking, as you're talking now, that perhaps part of this historical context that that you've painted for us so eloquently, that be also part of that curriculum. That because my takeaway from what you've said is that we need to be patient with ourselves. That we need to understand that we're still young, and that we mustn't put so much pressure to get everything right yesterday.
No, that is true. Yeah. I do believe that the leakages in the South African when I say leakages, the financial leakages that has reared its head over the last number of years in South Africa has certainly contributed also to the lack of funding, or funding going to the right areas as such. But and I wouldn't want that to be the reason why we think why sport hasn't grown as such, because of those unnecessary leakages. I do believe that we need to reflect and sit back and say, look, what kind of learner do we want to produce in South Africa?
Yes.
That's the most important thing. And I firmly believe that a holistic, well-rounded person that's involved in sport, because sports creates healthy characters. It allows you to understand, because you have to play within the rules of a game. Otherwise, you penalize. So it teaches you the issue of understanding rules and regulations and laws. It leads to good citizenry and citizenship as such. And then also, if you excel at it, you can actually make a living out of sport. And in South Africa, especially if you look at Siya Kolisi. Now, Siya played in for Eastern Province at Cravenwick under 18. He was spotted from his primary school. He did go to a more affluent school, Grey, where they do Grey PE, where they do invest in sport and that. Siya was there on a scholarship. We saw Siya at the Cravenwick in East London, and we then brought him to Cape Town, and we put him in our institute, Western Province Institute, not the academy. And Siya captained South Africa. He's captaining South Africa. He's been an icon for sport. And it's always saddened when people tend to bring Siya's blackness. Because Siya is a player. He happens to captain South Africa, who just happens to be black.
Yeah.
And Sia's story for me says that number one, there are many Sias out there that we need to invest in, because I can't say we must discover they're there. We need to invest in them.
Yes.
And that at the end, these children can make a living out of the game and take South Africa to higher spaces on the global stage.
Yeah. I love when you say you need to start with the actual, the outcome in mind. And I'm thinking of, I just briefly hinted about the movie that Will Smith is in, that captures the story of the Williams sisters and their dad. And it's called King Richard. I'm punting that movie, yes. I haven't seen it yet. I would love to see it. But how this father, started with the end in mind, and how we can take, he wrote a 78-page manifesto of how he was going to teach his young daughters tennis, and how he was going to produce the number one and number two tennis player in the world. And I think of Serena's, achievements, and then I think coming back again to what you said about Sia, again, it becomes about, she's black, he's black. The focus is on, they just, it's such a colonial mindset to be thinking in such a linear fashion, and not holistically, and saying, but we are all human.
And I come from the old school, the non-racial school.
The non-racial school. Why is the focus? Yeah. Why does the focus have to be on? Why can't it just be, hey, Sia's amazing, or Serena's brilliant, or Lewis Hamilton, that is amazing, he's incredible.
That's true. And
yeah.
Look, I think the world is very much divided.
Yeah.
I think, like they speak about the rich north and the poor south, and in the rich north, obviously you speak about the more dominant, if you look at from a color point of view, it's white, and the south is poor and they're always black, from that perspective, or they're dark-skinned as such. And those lenses can drive you, and there's very few individuals from a color point of view that has made it in the professional world. Yes, they're coming through a lot now. If you look at America and those basketball and baseball and those things, because of opportunities.
Yeah.
It's not the fact because all of a sudden, it's because of greater opportunities, greater access, and therefore kids are coming.
The playing field is being leveled.
Correct, and there aren't any restrictions. And you mentioned Lewis Hamilton, and I must take my hat off to Lewis.
I love that.
Because I do believe that he was done in. But I like the humility of Lewis in accepting the and let's call it a defeat, because in the sense of not being the world champion, but I have a bias because I'm a Lewis fan. I do think he was. There was a say in Athlon, on the wall at Athlon Stadium. There was a beautiful thing. We was robbed.
Was robbed. Yeah, Lewis was robbed.
So I want to say that, yes, Lewis was robbed. If I use that analogy, that's on the wall there, definitely. But so the same like Tiger, the Serena sisters.
Yeah.
So as and let me then use this racial term. As blacks, we look at those people because from a point of view, at least to assimilate. Let's say, okay, we can, because I remember growing up in apartheid, you always thought you were a third-class citizen. You're never going to be good at sport. You're never going to be good in the classroom. You're always going to be a laborer, and you will have to work for someone.
Yeah.
And that was that we all know that was totally taboo.
Yeah.
And if everyone is treated equal and given opportunities, that it will create a far more egalitarian society.
And much more even, yeah.
Correct.
much more even society. I can't agree
But
with
our
you
lenses
more.
are still fixed
Our
on color
lenses-
because of
myself and Judith talk about this.
we cannot deny
often
the impact of colonization and apartheid on us. So we, it's something that we need to unlearn because apartheid was a social construct. So we need to socially deconstruct it as such. It's going to take time.
So we're going to take a little time to get to a little ad break quickly, a little promo, and can come back after the break.
Community Champions is a new show on Bush Radio every Thursday at 9 p.m. Cornerstone Institute CEO Noel Daniels is the host and chats with various community champions about their life, their work, their struggles, and the music that inspires them to keep fighting for a better world. Conversational and laced with humor, the show is part of a new collaboration between Bush Radio and Cornerstone Institute, a private institute of higher learning in Cape Town, offering a range of on-campus and online programs in community development, psychology, business, and much more. If you're looking for inspiration on how to change the world, tune in to Community Champions on Bush Radio 89.5 FM with Cornerstone CEO Noel Daniels every Thursday at 9 p.m.
89.5.
What's happening, Cape Town? It's a girl B.
This is Black Coffee.
When I wait my fare to this is Kabelo, aka Mr. Booger Two Shoes.
Bush Radio, the station with the best music. 89.5 FM.
Don't touch that dial.
Welcome back, everyone. We're coming close to the end of our show, and my heart is breaking because this is just such an incredible topic. I mean, so much that still needs to be unpacked. And the challenges are so many. And I just want to ask, Ali and Danny to give us just the idea of what the way forward is. I mean, we've spoken about under-resourced communities. We've spoken about, how does one create opportunities for under-resourced communities? Where do we find resources? And now we've also touched on, racial inequities and historical inequities that still are playing out and still plaguing our communities. But how do we take sport? I want to end on a really positive note because I always think of, the 1995 World Cup. I don't think we were really on a huge high. We had come from a very challenging background, and somehow we found a way to beat the world at not just one country. We beat the world at rugby. And I'm sure Danny has some anecdotes on that particular event. Tell us what you can remember of that event and how we can take that energy of sport forward.
Look, we can't deny the '95 World Cup, what it did for South Africans, bringing them together. President Mandela holding the trophy. It was and it is an awesome experience and moment. I have a negative experience on that. I must say this, that, that time in 92, rugby unity started. So 95, it was the end. But there wasn't school unity in rugby yet.
Okay.
So I didn't go to Newlands. I refused to go because I felt that we still needed to. We were involved in negotiations still at that time. But I just said, no, even though I'm not going to watch the Springboks play Newlands. The next day, after the Monday, because they played I think it was the Saturday against Australia.
Yes.
And they beat Australia. So a large part of my staff went to the game. They came and they gave me hell. I sat there, I thought, what an idiot. I should have been there. Being a rugby person, playing provincial rugby at that point in time, and being involved, I didn't go to the game because of my systems that I believed at that point in time. But listening to them in the staff room and seeing what that game against Australia did, and obviously then we won the World Cup after that, it was an amazing experience for me from an outsider looking in to what it did to the psyche of South Africans, non-rugby South Africans.
Yeah.
That for me was the lesson I learned out of it whole experience. And obviously after that, obviously my blood became green, because before that it was black and white. It became totally green, and you know, as such. But that was a great experience for me in my evolution as a South African and
as a South African
Springbok supporter. So yes, we can't deny that the impact of that 95 World Cup to South Africans, as well as the 96 African Cup. You know, it was like a purple patch for South Africans. We gave the world what we always knew we had: great sport in our country.
And I think that's probably across the board with sport, because if you watch on a Sunday the Lewis Hamilton fans versus the Verstappen fans, or the Man United game against the Liverpool game, I think that is exactly what sport does. My husband was exactly the same. Black and white, that's who he supported until my son came along and started playing rugby, and he said, "Well, Dad, where's your green shirt?" And he had to get into that whole conversation around why he wasn't wearing one, and now he's more green than any one of us in the house. So sport does unite. We know that. I think it's how do we keep that going?
That's what I was
beyond
to ask.
the event.
Yeah. How do we take it beyond the 1995 World Cup? How do we keep that?
We forget we're the world champions at present.
I know, we're the current. Thanks for reminding us, though.
We are the world champions, and we are doing well in a number of our sports.
Yeah.
The challenge that that we need to face up is, as you said, how do we sustain it and maintain it? And there are major challenges in the with regard to inequality in the country. And so it's a societal thing. We need to reduce the inequality that exists. And if you reduce the inequality, obviously it would lead to more people and more kids getting opportunities and all those things.
I think,
and for you.
So if I look at my own circles, I think that to some degree the landscape is changing a little bit. If I look at the community in which I live, and so I think those of us that are fortunate enough to have been on both sides of the coin. I grew up in Mitchell's Plain. I lived in Blue Downs. The last part of my high school career, I went to Model C school. So 5 schools in, I knew how to fit in and how to connect, which I think that's my role at PlaySport4Life. And so I think if more of us start reaching out to our networks and actually taking people's hands and saying, actually cross Footricker Road with me, leave the leafy suburbs and come and see what's happening on the other side, I think that's how we're going to build. We have a habit, or it's just how it is that we take kids out of communities and we give them scholarships. And for me, if we pull resources and we twin schools as an example, and we say, instead of giving 50 kids a scholarship for the year, let's look at that amount of money and let's twin with a whole school and start investing in a whole school and build from the bottom up. I think we could do amazing things.
What do you think, Danny?
No, I agree definitely.
Thank you.
That is so. Partnerships is important, but I also believe that we must forget about the talent component, ID component of sport first. Yes. We must look at kids must play.
Kids should play.
If kids play, they'll be healthier, as I said. And then they can then obviously migrate into the sports that they want. And if you are good in that, then I don't necessarily mind the scholarships being given to a Kolisi or to a Skara or to a Lewis, because even in the most socialist of countries, which is China, I have a few friends that's working in China and that at universities and all those things. The Chinese system is also mass-based and looking for quality, and then taking the quality out of where they actually find themselves and putting them into centers of learning, of higher learning, and centers of excellence and all those things.
So you both prefer a much more sort of bottom-up approach?
Most definitely.
Definitely.
Most definitely.
Thank you, Ally. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for your time and just investing in this conversation. I really do feel edified. I think of when I drive along the old Vanguard Drive, the now Jack Scherwel Drive. I often see kids. There's a little patch of grass between the two robots, just running up from the Langa side, where I see boys playing soccer and grown men playing soccer on a Saturday. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I want to encourage communities out there. If you have kids that have sports, it is nothing against the moms and dads in the community just pulling together a little, start your own little club, start your own little thing.
I still believe the old adage of USASA and Western Province Sport.
Yeah.
A child in sport is a child out of court.
A child in sport is a child out of court. I think it is a brilliant note to end on. And just coming up with the music that we're going to be playing is by The Swale, who started out with 4 members, and the 3 that remained did a phenomenal job. But also a shout out to Something Soweto, and we're now going to play out with The Soil. Thank you, listeners. We're playing it with The Soil, playing Joy. We are family.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Unlearning proposes that new ways of learning can only be acquired when individuals unlearn those thoughts, those emotions, and those behaviors that prevent us from fully flourishing in the world.
2 weeks into this course, my heart already knew that my entire viewpoint on humanity was going to change.
During the years that I've worked with Taryn, she has assisted me in seeing the potential as an individual, and the course has changed my life for the better. I am the person that I am today because of the course that I enrolled for.
I've been lecturing the content for 7 years, and every year I am in awe of students who share how the content has transformed them both academically and personally. I believe that the world right now is in desperate need of an education that equips individuals with both academic and personal development skills.
Before this course happened, I used to hate people from the bottom of my soul. But after this course, for the first time in my life, I can say that I no longer hate people. I can finally say that I no longer see people for their circumstances, but rather for who they are as people and who they can become.
The things that I learned in my early childhood about who I was not and who I was supposed to be. However, the course showed me the true identity of myself. It showed me that it was okay to be vulnerable. It showed me that it was okay to heal. And throughout the course, I have grown tremendously.
And the unlearning course does that. I realized that the content was so powerfully transformative that it would be irresponsible, that it would be selfish for me not to share it with the world. Unlearning is really a course that I've been lecturing for 7 years, but I've made it bigger, I've made it better, and I'm excited to incorporate the performing arts. I do not believe that unlearning needs to be clinical and boring. We can also make unlearning entertaining and fun.
To anyone that would want to enroll in this course, it will not only benefit you academically, but also individually. It will assist you in presenting yourself as the true individual that you are, but it will also assist you in healing and journeying the life process.
This course was the missing puzzle piece that I needed in my journey of self-transformation and self-discovery. And most of all, this course taught me how to unlearn this toxic behavior and how to choose happiness and positivity in the present and to stop worrying about tomorrow.
The gift of this course is that it is universally applicable to any personal and professional context. Cornerstone, learn to change the world.
In this time of great uncertainty, there's one thing you can be certain of: your education. Our wide range of online programs let you upskill yourself and earn a leading-edge qualification from the comfort of your own home. We've been educating Africa for 50 years, so we know how to adapt to our forever-changing landscape. Learn to change the world and take control today. Speak to one of our student advisors. Visit cornerstone.ac.za to enroll now.